it's an industry. It's an industry comprised of three key areas. There are many more, but the three key areas are, of course, the scientific community of the biogerontologists. And of course, gerontology was one of the very beginnings of longevity, looking to where we are today, evolutionary biology, scientific research, looking at all the different theories and advances in medical breakthroughs that have helped overcome disease and extend lives for people, and to counter aging, of course. Then there's the business of longevity, the entrepreneurs, the angel investors, the venture capitalists, the people pitching at conferences, all the different people coming and wanting to find some way they can be part of this growing, bubbling industry. And then there is the movement, the people who are advocates, practitioners, those who have arranged their lifestyles to be as richly embedded with their diet and exercise and attitude and challenges and sensibilities to live a healthy, positive life as possible, given circumstances that each one of us faces. So I look at this as a type of infrastructure, so that I look at the longevity economy not just as a collection of products or processes or therapies, but also as an emergence of a new human infrastructure, because we are the longevity. While you have the labs over there and the facilities over here and the research being done all around us, it is our biology that is being changed. So the real infrastructure of longevity is in each person. And when I look at that, then gets really exciting to me. And as an architect, then I start looking at, okay, so this infrastructure, this is a system, mind you. So what are the variables within the system? And then I think, okay, the main variable, and I will say this as a utility, is body maintenance, to stay as healthy as possible, to check your biomarkers, to get your checkups, your blood work, your DNA, your epigenetics, all the different things that make you who you are, in your biology and your cognitive, your mind, how mindful are you? Are you questioning yourself? Are you really growing intellectually? And as I guess I'll just say kind human being, maybe consciousness is the term to use there. And then I look at, so that's one variable, which is a utility. The second variable, which is a utility, is the cognitive capacity. And I just touched on that, but it gets further because AI is advancing our cognitive capacity through our devices, which we did mention, assisting our memory, our calendaring, our appointments, communicating with us. Most of us use chatbots on a daily basis to remind us about things, and to help us maybe emotionally or intellectually on certain levels at certain times, but not to overuse it, to be sure, but to use it when necessary as a helping hand. And then there is the third variable, this is a very strong utility, is the socioeconomic time. And this is a time element where it's an extension of time, or what we call a lengthening of time, because everything in the world that we know in our human structures, institutions, family dynamics, society, etc., are based on time. Seems strange, but it is, isn't it? I mean, as a child, there's adolescence, and then you go into teenage years and puberty, and then you go to school, so there's education, whether you extend that into university or not. And then there's a career, you get a job, do something with your life, and then you find a partner, and you usually have a family and whatever dynamics you choose or not. And then there's the later years, the retirement years, and then the later years where you're having to think about, or your family's having to think about, your elder years, and then the the path towards your demise. And it's very sad to think of it that way, the jubilance of youth into career and positivity and nurturing and growth, and then death. But that's how society is based, and it has been since the earliest civilizations, within the various dynamics and frameworks. And to look at that means that longevity is this infrastructure, as I said, that has this architectural makeup of um, utilities, but those utilities no matter what they are situated in how we look at time. So I think time is a really important one. Now, I think that also looking at this industry, one thing I've noticed, because I've been going to conferences for 40 years now and speaking at them and actually hosting them. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about this the other day. Um, I worked with a team as one of the co-producers and co-hosts, actually there were two of us, and then our team, that produced and hosted probably the first public longevity conference, and that was in 1999 at the University of California in Berkeley. And we had great thinkers and longevity experts like Dr. Judith Campisci and Dr. Cynthia Kenyon and Dr. Gregory Stock and Dr. Eric Drexler and Dr. Roy Walford and Ray Kurzweil and great longevity, Dr. Roy. Oh, I mean, just the list goes on and on of who we had, and these were the seminal thinkers in longevity. And here we are today. And I think about how things have changed and how they've come about and matured to where the conferences aren't just about, that one was about genetic engineering and germline, somatic engineering, et cetera, and looking at stem cells and cloning and whatnot of cellular structures, also looking at cryobiology and preserving neurons and neural networks, et cetera, and AI, and looking at ways in which we could use the different theories that were already created with telomeres, et cetera, and gene editing, how that could be brought about into the 21st century. So it's really exciting to look at how this industry with its infrastructure has grown. But regardless, it's still about the human biology. Now that AI is coming into it, it's shifted a bit. So it's about human biocompatibility. So as we're looking at devices and enhancement, and especially nanomedicine and future of AI and repairing cellular damage, we need that tool that is going to help us better re-engineer the breakdown of our cellular structure and to repair and regenerate or rejuvenate the best that we can. Another area that I've seen that's really interesting in the industry, the field of longevity, is the terminology. I mentioned the three areas in longevity: the sciences, the entrepreneurial business aspect, and then also the advocacy and the movement of longevity. They're all interactive, to be sure, but they have used language a little bit differently. Aging meant something different, and maybe in medical field and in gerontology than it did in the advocacy or the practices or even in the entrepreneurial pitches. So it was really important to see where language was being used maybe differently and maybe confusing an audience, especially at conferences and in writing, to be sure, in books and in podcasts such as yours. So I wrote a chapter for a book and it's coming out soon. I came up with the idea that maybe we just need to admit there's a lexicon of longevity and get the terms and see how they're being used in these different areas and where there's a cross-link between these terms and what the clearest meanings are, not definitions. I didn't redefine anything. I just put the meanings. So it took a lot of research, a hell of a lot of research, as a matter of fact, but I really like that I did it, and I think it's a good resource. And so when I was just in Dubai last month speaking at the Geneva College of Longevity Science, I did mention this, and I did notice that longevity has gone from California or New York or the United States, where it was really developed in the modern late 20th century into the 21st century, to a world frame. And I'm not saying that others didn't do things, just they did. There was Nikolai Fedorov in Russia, and there was Jean Genet, I can't remember, in France. And there's so many around the world that have been doing work in longevity for a long, long time. But I'm talking about the industry itself and the movement in the late 20th century into the 21st century. So the confusion in words really mattered to me. And even the word lifespan is being not used so much today because health span is a more accepted term to use because longevity was criticized for just being for the elite, the wealthy, the haves, the people who could afford it. And that was a bit of an effrontery, to be sure, as if we didn't care about the rest of the world or other people. So that assumption had to be dealt with, and so it was changed. And now the more usable term is health span, which includes healthy longevity. Same with the term aging. Aging is a chronological term to determine the passing of years a person lives until the end of time, from the beginning to the end. That's lifespan, basically, or life expectancy is another term there. But the health span, meaning that to be as healthy as possible through the times, whether young or old, as a body illness or injury. So aging became associated with cosmetics. So the cosmetic industry using anti-aging. So aging became a term that, oh, they're flippant. They just want to look pretty or be youthful. And it's very kind of flippant. And that was another inappropriate assumption, to be sure, that aging is a chronological amount of time, but also it's a good thing. And this is really important, that philosophically over time, we've always associated with someone living more years becoming wiser. Now, that's not an absolute. You don't have to. Many people are very wise and very young, or very old and very unwise, but we always associated, generally speaking, that the accumulation of years also was the accumulation of experiences which garnished or were factors of wisdom. So that need to be dealt with. So how aging, just the term aging is used, is really important. So it's as simple and basic as that, then it gets very, very complex. So the industry has gone through some shifts. What I've noticed, just to wrap this up here, what I've noticed is that the conferences are not just about those of us who are scientists who have worked in our respective fields, or those of us who are advocates or practitioners, or those of us who are in the business of it, etc. But it's also about people who want to come in new and present their ideas. So that is the biggest area of the conferences that has really changed. There's whole sections for people to come and pitch new ideas, and sections for those financiers, the venture capitalists or angel investors, et cetera, to listen and give feedback. And I think that's really exciting because it brings in the factor of education, that there's this beautiful fluidity in learning when you go to conferences, not just about who's doing what or how they're doing it, but what can become next. And that's where I see it going. And I'll end on that particular topic with this. At that conference in Dubai, I mentioned the future of these different areas, the future of the utility of body maintenance, the future of the utility of cognitive capacity or capability, and the future of the utility of social economic time, extension of time or length of time. And I offered ideas, and this is new because most people don't talk about nanotechnology or nanomedicine at the longevity conferences by and large, or talk about the field of cryobiology and vitrifying cells, although there are 7 million people walking around on our planet today that were vitrified in a petri dish and injected in a woman's womb to give birth. So, but putting that aside, the field of cryobiology has great promise for vitrifying, or it's not taking to freezing, but that's the term. That's vitrifying is the scientific term. Freezing is the hacked term for people's organs. Every day, 10,000 people are waiting for someone to die so they can get a replacement heart or lung or kidney or something. And that to me seems so inhumane. Why not just grow organs or clone organs or vitrify organs for people to have if they're in danger and need a new organ replacement? So that's where I see longevity going, into the area of nanomedicine and cryobiology and prosthetics and looking at enhancement.